Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MtG Traders. My name is Taryn, and let's talk about the core set 2019 previews. So I'm not going to waste any time. Let's jump right into it, guys, with all of these blurry cards. One of the things that really annoys me is that, when WotC spoils cards for preview seasons, they're always low resolution, blurry, crappy stuff. So... First up, we have Nexus of Fate, which is the Buy a Box promo. Yes, they are definitely doing the Buy a Box promo thing again, and I'm still not happy about it, but, Nexus of Fate is a cool card. It's a 7-mana instant. Take an extra turn after this one. If Nexus of Fate would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, reveal Nexus of Fate and shuffle it into its owner's library instead. So a great discard outlet, but also a great way to, kind of get extra turns at instant speed on your opponent's turn, which is very, very cool. So I like this card a lot. I think it's going to be really cool for like a weird standard brew, like a really weird meme deck. Going to be really good in EDH, of course. Instant speed taking turns is kind of interesting, and for 7 mana, can't beat it. But of course, this is a buy box promo, so, most people probably won't have this card in paper or online. So a little annoyed that's happening, but, I might make a separate video on that, just me talking about that and how annoying it is to me. But let's move on to some other cards here for us. We've got Vivian Raid, a new Planeswalker out of the core set here. A 5-mana 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card or land card from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. -3 is destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. Interesting because it's kind of close to how Vraska is right now from Ixalan. -8, you get an emblem with creatures you control, get +2/+2, and then a vigilance, trample, and indestructible. Not that interesting of a Planeswalker really for 5 mana. Right now, the Nissa, right now that's going to be still in standard, and when this set is in standard, or core set is in standard. Nissa's better as a just 5 mana, 5 loyalty Planeswalker. I'm not really sure where this card's going to fit. It's just kind of boring overall. Look at the top 4, grab a creature or land. That's nice. And it does get around like a strike or something like that. -3, destroy target artifact or an enchantment is also nice. But again, it doesn't just destroy a creature. It just destroys creature with flying, which is a little bit of a drawback. I guess if we're playing up against a Glorybringer or a Rekindling Phoenix, that might be a little bit better for us. An emblem is okay too, but again, it's like you have to have creatures on the battlefield for this to be able to work. I don't know. I feel like it's probably just going to see play in fringe decks, tabletop decks, or kitchen table decks, that kind of stuff. Don't really see a lot of application in this in current standard right now. Maybe post-rotation, this will see some more play. Regardless, I do love the Green Arrow style art that this card has. Really love the art on the card. And of course, love the tigers. Is that tigers or wolves in the background? Either way, I really like the card art. Moving on here, we have Sarah's Guardian. I like how this is actually more expensive than Sarah's Angel. 6 mana, 6 mana, 5/5, there we go. A flying vigilance and other creatures you control have vigilance. So this is a great card for us getting around a seal away. I feel like this might be a really cool card to put into a standard Angels list. I like this card a lot. I think it's a great limited bomb. I do think it probably won't see much play outside of limited, but maybe in any standard Angels list, and that's probably going to be it. But giving everything else vigilance is super good right now, especially against that seal away stuff. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Moving up here to another rare for us, we have Riddlemaster Sphinx, a 6-mana 5/5 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand. So just another limited bomb. Great 6-mana 5/5 flyer. That's going to be doing some great stuff in the draft situation. But for standard, this card is kind of Terabad. But I think this card is actually in... Let's see, I can't tell because of the compression on this image. It might be a card that is just in the Planeswalker deck. Let me see over here too if this one is in the Planeswalker deck as well. See, I can't really tell because of the numbers here. I think these are actually both going to be in the Planeswalker decks. So I don't think they'll be in the actual standard format. So if they are, they're just limited bombs. But if they're not, then they're just straight up useless. Moving up here, we have a Patient Rebuilding, a 5-mana rare enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent puts the top 3 cards of their library into their graveyard. Then you draw a card for each land card put into their graveyard this way. I really like this card a lot. I don't think this is a card that's going to tell me that Mill is back in the format right now. I do think this card is interesting though. For 5 mana though, this card is kind of expensive. But, you know, it does give you turn-over-turn value and gives you the ability to draw maybe 1, 2, or even 3 cards if you get into a mana pocket on your opponent's side of the field. So I think it's interesting. I think there might be a cool Turbo Fog deck to build around this if we get some more fogs within the core set here. But for now, I mean, it's okay. It's probably something we're going to pass a lot in draft. Moving up here, we have Demon of Catastrophes. This is a promo here. 4 mana 6/6. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. It's got flying and trample. This card is super good, and that like drawback is not much of a drawback right now in the standard format. I mean, you have Scrap Heap Scrounger you can just sack immediately, as well as Dread Wanderer in the format. So you have 2 sack outlets in black right now that can actually be used for Demon of Catastrophes. I think this card is super good for 4 mana. It's also a flyer, and it has trample, so this card is going to be used a lot in mono black aggro. And yeah, and I think if you pull into this in draft or sealed, this is a great way to get into black as well. So just a great card overall. Moving up here for us, we have Grave Walker. Love the art on this one. A 6 mana 5/5 bird spirit with flying. You can pay 7 mana. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So I do think this one is from the Planeswalker decks here. I think it says 93 instead of 80 right there in the bottom left. Again, the compression here is just, it's killing me. It's killing me. But yeah, I think it's just a Planeswalker card, so not going to see any play in draft or sealed. Interesting ability, too expensive, and you know, 6 mana 5/5 flyer. That's fine, I guess. Okay for a Planeswalker deck. Moving up here, we have Shivan Dragon. Oh, it's nice, and it's back. A 6 mana 5/5 creature dragon with flying. Pay 1 red mana. Shivan Dragon gets +1/+0 into a turn. You guys know what it does. I think this is also a Planeswalker deck card. It says 300 out of 280, I believe. So this is a card you probably won't see at all in draft or sealed, or you won't see it all in draft or sealed for sure. So moving on from this card real quick, we have Vivian's Invocation, a 7 mana sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. When a creature card is put into the graveyard from the battlefield this way, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So an interesting removal spell for 7 mana. Kind of expensive. I mean, you are looking at the top 7, so I guess 1 card is 1 mana in this deck, or in this spell, I guess. Interesting. I'm not really that interested in it for sure, but it says you may put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield, so it is 7 mana to just put something onto the battlefield, so I'm not in love with this card. I think it's interesting, but again, 7 mana is a lot to get to. So you never know, though. I mean, mono green aggro is a deck list right now, and that deck is also super good at the moment. So you could see this maybe in a sideboard if there's up against like a slower strategy, or a strategy that's not running a lot of like counter spells, something like that maybe. Or they're just like trying to out aggro another aggro deck. So maybe, maybe not. Let's move on to the next card here. We have Aggressive Mammoth here. Love this card. A 6 mana 8/8 elephant with trample. Other creatures you control have trample, so a great way to turn on trample. This is not in the actual deck list again. I think it's in the Planeswalker decks. I think it says 302 out of 280. Again, guys, sorry about the compression on these cards, but this is how they come from the website itself. This is a card I really think will actually might see some play in a sideboard list for mono green aggro for sure. Again, it's a 6 mana 8/8 but trample and gives everything else trample. So again, we have that card. We'll probably get into it in just a minute, but it's a 5 mana 10/10 that doesn't have trample. This is a great way to give it trample if we have the time. So moving on here from this, there it is. Yeah, Gigantosaurus, a 5 mana 10/10. This is in the set here, so if you pull into this as your rare in draft and sealed, congratulations. You're probably going to be into green if you do that. It's a straight 5 mana for green. It's just a 10/10, that's it. But the best thing about this is it turns on Ronos, and if it survives a turn and you have Galta in your hand, Galta is just 2 mana. So super good card overall. Really like it a lot. Really love the flavor text here as well. Each tooth is the length of a horse, and new ones grow in every 16 days. Let's get a closer look. It's like a Steve Irwin style like thing right there. That's really interesting. Like this card a lot, and yeah, I think it's going to be really good in a mono green aggro list for sure. Moving up here, we have Desecrated Tomb, a 3 mana artifact. Whenever one or more creature cards leaves your graveyard, create a 1/1 black bat creature token with flying. So this kind of tells me we'll have something like maybe Cremate or something like that in the actual like set list here. Cremate, of course, is a 1 black mana. I think it's exile target card from a graveyard, draw a card. So one of those kind of things. There's another one that exiles 3 at a time. I can't remember what the card name is though. But regardless, I think this is a very good card if we have a lot of stuff going in and out of the graveyard, as far as like that being like a theme within the core set here. We haven't really seen a lot of that just yet, so going forward, we'll kind of see what we can do. But I do like this card as far as the art and making bat creatures. Hopefully, or I wish it would rather make zombie creatures instead. Moving on here, we have Militia Bugler. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's 3 mana, 2/3 human creature, human soldier, not human creature. It's a creature, human soldier. There we go. Vigilance. When it enters a battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. I like this card a lot, especially in like the mono white weenies list right now. This card is super good for that particular list. I like the promo as well. I think it's really interesting. So we'll probably see a lot of play from this card, honestly, in that mono white weenies list, or maybe even like a soldier list for sure, or soldier or knight list. Black white soldiers, black white knights, whatever, something like that maybe. Either way, I think this card will definitely see some play at an uncommon in the set here. Moving on here, we have Herald of Faith, a 5 mana 4/3 flyer. Enters the battle, or not enters the battle, but whenever it attacks, sorry about that, you gain 2 life. Interesting card. I think it's a good top end for a limited or draft deck here. A 5 mana 4/3 flyer, you'll take that all day long and be able to gain life in the mid to late game as well when this attacks. Super good. I think this card's great. It's going to be able to trade up really well in draft and sealed. Yeah, and art is just stellar on this one too. Moving on here, we have Air Elemental, the classic 5 mana 4/4 flyer in blue. Super good card for draft and sealed. You're going to always take it for sure. And yeah, that's about it for that card. You're probably never going to play this in draft or in standard. Moving on here, we have Sleep. It's back. 4 mana sorcery. Tap all creatures the target player controls. Those creatures don't untap during the player's next untap step. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Sleep, I can't remember when the last time it was like printed. Maybe the last core set. It's been a while since we've seen Sleep, I think. So this card's really, really good. It's very, very useful against like a more tempo-based deck, especially in draft and sealed. Very, very good at being able to just win the game after you cast this spell for sure. Or the following turn, because it does, make sure they don't untap the next untap step as well. So they're tapped down for 2 turns, basically, for your turn. Like this card a lot. Definitely going to be a high draft pick in blue if you're in draft and sealed. Moving on here, we have Vampire Sovereign. This is a 5 mana 3/4 flyer. When it enters a battlefield, target opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. So is this Siege Rhino? It's not technically Siege Rhino, but it's very, very close. I think a black-white vampire list is definitely going to be in the running for a really great deck list here, thanks to Vampire Sovereign being a great top ender for the deck list. Being able to swing life 3 points both ways is super great, and being a 3/4 flyer is also great as well because it can get around like in a braid, a lightning strike, that kind of stuff too. So I think this card is super good. I think it's a high draft pick especially, and I think it's going to be a card that you might see in standard in vampire lists for sure because it is just a straight up vampire. Moving on here, we have Gravedigger. This is back here. This is a 4 mana 2/2. When it enters a battlefield, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So a decent card for draft and sealed. We won't see any kind of standard play at all. But yeah, just a very standard card to see in draft and sealed to return like that one giant bomb that you had that was killed by our opponent's 1 removal spell because this is draft and sealed. Moving up here, we have Diregaff Ghoul, basically meaning that zombies are back in town. We have a lot of zombies right now in Omnicap and Hour Devastation. Zombies are trying to get back into the meta, and I think Core Set 2019 here really does make zombies another threat for us, which is really good. I really like that. A black mana 2/2, it is battlefield tapped, super useful, super good and cheap as well. So I think that zombies are probably going to come back in a big way once Core Set 2019 comes out in full. Next up here, we have Gutter Snipe. This card's back as a promo. 3 mana 2/2. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Gutter Snipe deals 2 damage to each opponent. I like Gutter Snipe a lot. This is a deck that, or a card that I would build around probably like an Is It Spells list with this card and probably the Enigma Drake. There are some other lists you could probably build this around, like maybe a mono red burn list. There's that Jai Bauer list I built a few weeks ago for the channel. That this card could probably fit snugly in as well. We also have Firebrand Archer and this card in the same like standard pool, so we could see like a weird burn list with creatures like this. I like Gutter Snipe a lot. I think this is a great card, and we'll see what happens. I think this is also a good sign for us to see that we're gonna have more goblins in the actual format as well. So good for draft and sealed if you have a lot of spells, but otherwise it's just a 3 mana 2/2, so you might want to pass over it if you're not into a lot of spells in red. Moving on here, we have a Volcanic Dragon. Haven't seen this art in a while. This is a 6 mana 4/4 flyer with haste. Super good, super useful. A great top end bomb for you if you're in red and draft and sealed. Besides that, you won't see it anywhere else in standard at all. But it's definitely found home in draft and sealed. Moving up here, we have Lightning Strike. Lightning Strike's going to be still in standard once rotation happens, and this is just a playthrough to reprint it again. It's a 2 mana, deal 3 damage to any target. So wish we had a Lightning Bolt, but Strike, well, that'll do. Moving up here, we have Fiery Finish, a 6-mana sorcery, deals 7 damage to target creature. This card is silly. Wish it was any target for 6 mana, but 7 damage to target creature. You know, if you really need the removal in Draft and Sealed, you definitely want to pick this. It is kind of weird how it isn't uncommon, but you know, whatever. I think this card is fine if you like the removal in Draft and Sealed. Moving up here, we have Recollect, a 3-mana sorcery, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. I really like this card. I feel like this was printed not recently. But just looking at the art, it looks like it's kind of old art, so I feel like this card hasn't been printed in a while. Good card. I think this card's very useful. I don't think you'll see any kind of standard play, but I do think in Draft and Sealed this card is super good in the green builds. Moving up here, guys, we have Gostbark Twins. Is it Gostbark? Bark? Yeah, Bark. 7 mana 7/7 Tree Folk with Trample. Tree Folk! Nice. Haven't seen a Tree Folk in a while. The twins can block an additional creature each combat, which is super cool for us because it is a 7 mana 7/7. So if you get into a lot of mana and able to play this in your Draft and Sealed pool, I think it's a great card for you to block with, and just a great card for you to attack out with because it is a 7/7 Trampler. So it can kind of end the game for you or hold back a lot of attackers, which I think is really, really good. Moving up here, guys, we have Fountain of Renewal, a 1-mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. That's just a passive ability, so very good for just 1 mana. You can pay 3, sacrifice it, and draw a card. So I think this card is super useful and might be useful in like an artifact deck list right now. In after the course that 2019 kind of comes out into standard, so you might see this card in a standard playlist somewhere or deck somewhere. As far as like Draft and Sealed, it's just interesting. It draws you a card, which is fine, and it gains you life each turn. So play this on turn 1, you gain 3 life by the time you get to 3 mana. I think this card is kind of okay and kind of makes a nice home for itself in like an Aetherflux Reservoir style deck in standard. Moving on here, we have Reliquary Tower. It's back. This is a card that kind of makes Kefnet a card that actually might matter now. You have no maximum hand size, and you can add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool. So Kefnet, if you guys know, is one of the gods from the Amonkhet block, and you need 7 cards in your hand to make that card like attack. And the problem with that card is that we don't have any cards that have no maximum hand size in standard right now. Reliquary Tower does that for us and kind of shows us, hey, we can actually do this and make it work. And I think this is a great way for us to actually see if Kefnet is viable in the format. So we might see that, we might not. Either way, I am happy to see Reliquary Tower back in the format here as a good kitchen table card. And just Draft and Sealed as well if you get into a lot of draft or drawing action in Draft and Sealed. Next up here for us, we have Sun Sentinel. This card's back already, a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance. It's going to see quite a bit of Draft and Sealed play. Kind of upset that they keep reprinting cards that are just like the last set, basically. I think this came out in either Rivals or Ixalan, one of the two. Either way, I mean, reprinting it again, it's kind of just feels creatively lazy to me, but whatever, it's fine. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance. You'll still pick it in Draft and Sealed. Moving up here, we have Silverbeak Griffin. This card is really decent for us. A 2-white mana 2/2 Griffin with flying. I don't know if we'll see this in a like mono white flyers list or just a mono white weenies list, but a 2-mana 2/2 with flying is super good. So I think this will be a great card for us for Draft and Sealed and at a common rate. But we might see this in a standard deck list somewhere if we kind of find out that we have a blue-white flyers or a mono-white flyers list out there in the wild. Moving on here, we have Take Vengeance, a 2-mana sorcery, destroy target tap creature. This card is super good at common here. And again, just another card that kind of penalizes your opponent for having tapped creatures instead of having vigilance creatures, kind of like Seal Away does as well, just for 2 mana. So same thing, but it is sorcery speed, so it's not like Seal Away, not as good for sure. It is just common speed removal. It's common sorcery speed removal rather. So it's going to be a good card for Draft and Sealed, and that's about it. Moving up here, we have a Star-Crowned Stag, a 4-mana 3/3. Whenever it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. We haven't really had a card like this in a while, I feel like. I'm sure once we get to Ravnica, we'll have a lot of these like tempo-based cards. But I think this card is super good for a Draft and Sealed. 4-mana 3/3, it's okay, but 4-mana 3/3 that taps something down when it attacks is super good as well. So I think this card is pretty good, and maybe going to be a mid to low pick for us in Draft and Sealed. Moving up here, we have a Rustwing Falcon, a 1-white mana 1/2 flyer. This card is really good as well if you're getting into a lot of low to the ground creatures in your Draft and Sealed pool. I think a lot of these creatures are kind of showing that white really wants to be aggressive in this Draft and Sealed environment right now. And I think Falcon is just a super good card as well. Just being a 1/2 flyer is really good on turn 1. If there is a lot of enchantment or artifacts within or artifact equipments within the format, I think Rustwing Falcon will be an all-star in the format for sure. sure for draft and sealed. Moving up here, we have Revitalize, a 2-mana instant. You gain 3 life and draw a card. Draw a card at instant speed is not bad, and gaining 3 life is not bad either. This might be a like mid to low pick for us in draft and sealed. I'm not sure this is going to see any kind of play at all in standard. Of course, this doesn't do enough for 2 mana, but I do think in draft and sealed this might be a nice card to kind of put as like your your 15th or 16th pick in your deck list here for just gaining cards and drawing life, or gaining life and drawing cards. There we go. Moving on here, we have a Pegasus Courser. This was just reprinted, or just printed in Dominaria, and it's being reprinted again in the following set. This card is fine. It's probably one of the best white flyers in the list here. A 3-mana 1/3. Whenever it attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So super good again. But one of the things I am seeing though about throughout all the white creatures is, just how like Dominaria, we all thought white was the best like color for a long time, and it kind of turned into red and blue being the best colors. And that's because white didn't have just a lot of equipment, a lot of sustainability and utility. So we might see that problem as well crop up in this new set. So kind of be wary whenever you draft into white. We'll definitely want to see what the full deck list or full card list comes out, and we'll see what that looks like. But I think for now, Corsair is just a great card for you if we get into white for draft and sealed. Moving on here, we have the Swift Claw, a 2-mana 3/1. We haven't seen this card in a while either. I feel like the last time I saw this was in like maybe Theros block. It's been a while. 2-mana 3/1, super good. Basically the Raptor companion that was in the Ixalan block. Very good card for you if you want to get into a 2-mana creature. Can trade up for sure, and block if you can as well, but yeah, just a super good vanilla creature. Next up here, we have a Luminous Bonds, a 3-mana aura. Enchanted creature can attack or block. I think we saw this again in Dominaria or Rivals of Ixalan. I think it was Rivals of Ixalan. Yeah, this is Rivals of Ixalan art, I believe. Just a decent card, good removal for white. Get into it if you like it for draft and seal. That's about it. Next up here, we have Totally Lost. This is, I think, from the Ravnica block. A 5-mana instant. Put target non-land permanent on top of its owner's library, basically time walking them. Super good card, super useful for us. And yeah, I love the art. Love little, how do you pronounce his name? Is it Fibblethip or something like that? Whatever. Super good card, I think, as well. Moving up here, we have Waterknot, another card from Dominaria, a 3-mana enchantment orb, enchant creature. And when Waterknot enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature can't untap, or doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So another good removal spell, but for blue this time. Luminous Bonds is good for white, Waterknot is good for blue. So I think this card is super nice, and a nice high draft pick if you're in blue, in draft and sealed. Moving on here, we have Mistcloak Herald, another card. These cards are kind of being reprinted fairly early, or fairly quickly, right after they're in the format. So yeah, that's fine, I guess. Mistcloak Herald is a nice all-star in blue for us. A blue mana 1/1, can't be blocked. If you get into a nice aggressive strategy in blue, you'll want to pick the Herald for sure. I think this card is super good for that particular situation, especially if you get into a lot of auras or a lot of equipments to pump this card up. Moving on here, we have Befuddle, a 3-mana instant. Target creature gets -4, -0 until end of turn. Draw a card. Again, another card that I feel like we've seen recently. I think this is in Dominaria still. Yeah, this was just reprinted in Dominaria. So, I mean, it's still a good combat trick in blue. Going to be a good card in draft and sealed for sure. And draw you an extra card as well. Not going to see any kind of standard play for sure. Moving up here, we have Wall of Mist. We haven't seen this in a while, I don't believe. A 5/05, not a 5-mana, a 0/5/2/2, or 2-mana 0/5. There we go. Woo, with Defender. Fun card, a great wall for you in blue, and just a nice pick for us as far as a mid to low pick in draft and sealed. Moving up here, we have Uncomfortable Chill. This is a 3-mana instant. Creatures your opponent controls get -2, -0 until end of turn. Draw a card. This card is super good because it is a board-wide -2, -0 against your opponent. And you also draw a card for 3 mana. Very, very nice. It's basically Befuddle, but a board-wide Befuddle for just -2 instead of -4. So if you're just kind of like at the razor's edge of being able to kind of trade with your opponent's creatures, just use this card, and it's a great way to just wipe their entire board state if you have nice blocks up. Moving on here, we have Tolarian Scholar. Again, we just saw this in Dominaria. A 3-mana 2/3, just a vanilla. It's fine. I mean, yeah, it exists. Pick it for a draft and sealed if you're in blue. Snapping Drake, a 4-mana 3/2 flyer. Haven't seen this in a while, but it's another vanilla creature with flying, basically. 3/2 flyer for 4, not bad. You're going to pick it in draft and sealed if you have or need a flyer or a nice attacker in the upper echelon slots in draft and sealed. That's about it. Moving up here, we have Frilled Sea Serpent, a 6-mana 4/6. You can pay 7 and it can't be blocked this turn. Interesting card if you have the mana to pour into it. for draft and sealed. But yeah, it's one of those cards where it's a little slow, a little not as aggressive as you want it to be. So it might be a good attacker for you in draft and sealed if that's like your top end bomb. But otherwise, it might just go into your sideboard and never come out of there. Next up here for us, we have Divination. We just saw this, I think, in Dominaria again. I should do like a quick like math thing after we show all these cards and see how many are from different sets that are currently in standard, but it's a lot apparently. Divination is here, 3 mana, or draw 2 cards. That's pretty decent, very useful for you in draft and sealed. Moving up, we have Aven Windmage. This is a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Aven Windmage gets +1/+1 to end a turn. This is a super good card you're going to see probably in standard in the wizards list because it is a bird wizard. So in blue, red wizards, this is just basically prowess, giving extra prowess to the Windmage, which is nice. And it's also a flyer for 3 mana. So you're going to see this there. It's also a good draft pick for us as well, being a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. Moving on here, we have Grasping Scoundrel. This is a card from Ixalan, a 1 mana 1/1. Whenever it gets +1/+0 as long as it's attacking, so a 2/1 for 1, which is not bad in black. Grasping Scoundrel, I feel like, was kind of an all-star in that particular format, so very good card for us in draft and sealed. So probably we'll see it a lot as well in core set draft and sealed. Moving up here, we have Tattered Mummy. This is a card from Amonkhet, a 2 mana 1/2. When it dies, each opponent loses 2 life. I feel like Tattered Mummy was not in the actual main list. I think this card was actually just in a Planeswalker deck. If I'm not mistaken, please let me know in the comments down below. But I think that's correct. But this card is not bad at all. Whenever it dies, each opponent loses 2 life, so not bad. I think it's nice as a 2 mana 1/2 because it does make your opponent lose a possible 3 life if it gets in for 1, as well as just dying to a bigger creature from your opponent next turn. Moving on here, we have Walking Corpse. This is another card that's just a 2 mana 2/2 vanilla. Decent, and again, just kind of showing us that zombies are probably going to be a thing in this core set here, which is good to know. So we'll see what happens as far as the actual standard format for right now. Again, Amonkhet and Hour of Devastation cycle out once October hits, so we'll probably only have like a good zombie deck for like 3 months, which is kind of sad. But I mean, we'll have it when we have it. We'll just enjoy it while we have it. There we go. Moving up here, we have Strangling Spores, a 4 mana instant. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. This card is okay as a great removal spell for us in draft and sealed, but besides that, it's not going to see any kind of play whatsoever. Moving on here, we have Sovereign's Bite, 2 mana sorcery. Target player loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. Interesting card. Not really that in love with this card itself as far as like a pick for us in draft and sealed. Losing 3 life and gaining 3 life is nice, but we really like that to be like on another card ability, like the flyer we talked about earlier. The 5 mana, I think it was a 3/4 flyer. This card is okay. You might want to pass over it though in draft and sealed for sure. Next up here, we have Skymarch Bloodletter. This is a card that's kind of an all-star in draft and sealed, a 3 mana 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. See, this is a card that I really like because it does the life gain, life loss, but it also is a 2 mana or a 3 mana 2/2 flyer as well. So it has some stuff outside of just the gaining the life and losing life. So I think this card is super good. If you get into a lot of them, that's fine in draft and sealed for sure, because it is again a flyer, so it can get over a lot of opponents' creatures. Next up here for us, we have Skeleton Archer, a 4 mana 3/3, which is actually not too bad. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 point of damage to any target. So if it enters the battlefield, it can actually ping down like a scoundrel or something like that, destroying it, and also just be a 3/3, which is not bad either. Also love the art on this card as well. I think the art's pretty fancy too. Next up here for us, we have Murder. This is a 3 mana instant. Destroy target creature. Haven't seen this in a while either, I believe, but it's a promo here. Pretty nice. Would have loved to have had Hero's Downfall for this slot. But we'll take it, I guess. This is fine for draft and seal. Not standard at all. Lich's Caress here. This is a 5 mana sorcery. Destroy target creature, you gain 3 life. So this is just a 5 mana destroy something sorcery on in black for draft and sealed. So you're gonna pick it because it's a good destroy card, and it does gain you 3 life as well, which is nice. Next up here for us, we have Infernal Scarring. This is a 2 mana enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has, when this creature dies, draw a card. Haven't seen this in a while. I feel like this is the last time we saw this is like Zendikar maybe? Actually, the last time we saw this was Magic Origins. Sorry about that. Yeah, Magic Origins was the last time we saw this card. So the last core set, basically. This card is fine. This card is a good card for you in black as far as an aura goes. So if you're in black and you want to pull this into draft and sealed, I think this card is perfectly fine because it does replace itself after that creature dies. Next up here we have Bog Stomper. This card is ridiculous. The art is a 6 mana 6/5 vanilla. That is it. And yeah, that's a card that exists. That's a thing. That's just a weird like giraffe like alligator. What is happening? What is happening? Moving on here, we have Radiating Lightning. I feel like we just saw this card in Dominaria. 4-mana instant, deals 3 damage to target player and 1 damage to each creature that player controls. This card is actually not terrible in Draft and Sealed, and this card is actually not terrible in Standard in some cases if we're up against a token-based strategy. So I think this card is fine at instant speed. I think this card is probably going to be a mid to low pick for you in Draft and Sealed, depending on how the meta kind of evolves over time. Moving up here for us, we have Kargan Dragon Rider, a 2-mana 2/2. As long as you control a dragon, the Dragon Rider has flying, so not bad. We've saw quite a few dragons as well, so if you can get into a lot of dragons in Draft and Sealed, this card might actually be worth it. As far as Standard goes, this card will not see any kind of play at all. Next up here for us, we have Trumpet Blast, a 3-mana instant. Target attacking creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. This card's fine. It's a great way to like end a match if you're ahead, but this card is terrible if you're behind, so I think you probably want to stay away from it unless you just know that your deck list is going to be really good with a Trumpet Blast in it. Next up for us, we have a Spark Tongue Dragon, a 5-mana 3/3 dragon with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 3. When you do, it deals 3 damage to any target. I really like this card a lot, as a common especially. So for Draft and Seal, this is a high draft pick for me. A 5-mana 3/3 flyer is a little expensive, but being able to pay that extra 3 if you have it, so making this 8 mana, does come with a bolt on it. Being able to, bolt the face, bolt a planeswalker, or bolt just a creature. So I think this card is super good for that particular situation. I wish it was a 4/4 flyer for 5. That'd be a little bit better, or maybe a 3/4 flyer. Either way, though, I think this card is super good at the common slot. Moving on from here, though, we have Shock. Shock is back, so Lightning Strike and Shock are in the same set. Super nice. I think they're probably doing this just to make sure that those are not in like regular new sets now, making sure that the core set just reprints like the basic stuff, like Counterspell and Shock and Lightning Strike, that kind of thing. Nice to see Shock staying in Standard once rotation happens. Always happy to see the burn spells stay in the format. Next up here for us, we have Goblin Motivator, another Goblin card for us, a 1 red mana, 1/1. You can tap it, target creature gains haste until end of turn. Goblin Warrior, I think this card is probably going to be one of the cards that makes Goblins a little bit better. We'll kind of wait and see as far as what happens in Standard. But in Draft and Sale, this card is a great card for us because it makes anything on our side of the field have immediate haste. So a great turn 1 play in red, kind of showing us that there's a lot of good red mobility here and utility on the creatures for sure. So going to probably be a high draft pick. Or not like first pickable for sure, but maybe like 4th or 5th pickable in a draft pool for this set. Next up for us, we have Fire Elemental, a 5-mana 5/4, just vanilla. We have Water Elemental or Air Elemental, I believe, in blue, and this one is in red, so not bad, not great, but it will be a nice top end bomb for you in Draft and Sealed. Next up for us, we have Electrify. This is a card from Amonkhet block. Even the Amonkhet art is here. 4-mana instant, deals 4 damage to target creature. So it's fine. It's useful. This is a card you're probably going to pick once or twice in your deck list if you're in red in Draft and Sealed. Next up for us, we have Elvis Rejuvenator. This is a 3-mana 1/1 creature elf druid. When he enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any random order. So it's actually a great way for us to get a land onto the battlefield. This card probably will see play in Standard, maybe just in an elf list, but I think it's just a great way for us to get more mana on the battlefield more quickly in green. So maybe a mid-range list somewhere. For 3 mana, it is kind of expensive to do that, so I think this might just see a play in an elf list. But regardless, I think this card is not terrible either for Draft and Sealed, because it can get you a land on the battlefield, kind of put you a little bit ahead of your opponent if you're kind of behind on lands, or maybe you're ahead on lands, you get even more ahead, kind of sift through your lands as well. So I think that's a good reason for this card to exist as well in Draft and Sealed. It is just a 1/1, so it probably might not see much play as well. So we'll kind of see how it goes as far as this list goes, or the full card list goes. But I think in Standard, this will probably just see play in maybe an elf list. Moving on here, we have Llanowar Elves again from Dominaria, now into the core set here. 1 green mana, 1/1, tap, add 1 green. This is fine. Gonna be a card you're probably gonna pick into if you're in green in Draft and Sealed. Next up for us, we have Ursine Champion. This is a 2-mana 2/2, pay 6, gets +2/+3, becomes a Bear Berserker until end of turn. Activates ability only once each turn, so becomes a 2/2 at the beginning of the game and can turn into a 5/5 in the mid to late game. I think this card is super good and a great draft pick for you in green for sure. Probably not going to see any kind of Standard play, just a little too slow on its abilities, but in Draft and Seal, this card is not bad at all. If it kind of hangs around on the board state for a while, this card will do some real damage in the mid to late game. Moving on for us, though, we have Wall of Vines. Haven't seen this in a while. A 1 green mana 0/3 defender with reach. not bad. Great draft pick for us as well. Just getting around those nice flyers in red and white. Good card for you, and a good sideboard pick as well in draft and sealed. Not going to see any kind of standard play though at all. Next up here we have Titanic Growth. Haven't seen this in a while. This is a 2-mana instant. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn. Super useful. Very, very good in standard. Very, very good in draft and sealed. So probably won't see any kind of standard play for sure, but you know, you never know for sure. But I think this card is just decent for draft and sealed. Moving on here, we have Thornhide Wolves, a 5-mana 4/5 vanilla. Very, very nice for us. 4/5. The 5 toughness is usually really good for this card for sure. I'm sure we'll see a lot of these in the draft format. Next up here, we have Rabid Bite, a 2-mana sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. Very good removal spell in draft and sealed. Won't see any kind of standard play though, but very good removal spell in draft and sealed. Next up for us though, we have Plummet. 2-mana instant, destroy target creature with flying. Very good card for us in sideboard matches in draft and sealed. So we'll always pick this card if I see it and if I'm in green. So very good card for that, but won't see any kind of standard play. Next up, we have Oaken Form. Haven't seen this card in quite a while. A 3-mana enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3. This card is super good in draft and sealed, and will always be a high pick for me if I'm in green. Maybe this card will see play in standard. You never really know with stuff like this. I don't think it will. If there was something like this that had like totem armor or something like that, I think it'd be more interesting in standard for sure. But I do think in draft and sealed this card is just fine. Moving on though, we have Highland Game, a 2-mana 2/1. When it dies, you gain 2 life. So interesting card, a good card to kind of trade with. It's just a 2-mana 2/1 though, so it isn't. It's kind of below average. So it could just be a card that just is meant to die. So not that interesting for me in draft and sealed, but if it is like the last slot, I might throw it in there if I need a creature. Next up for us, we have Giant Spider. Giant Spider is back, a 4-mana 2/4 with reach, so not bad. Always going to be picked. Very good card for us in draft and sealed. Besides that, you know, don't put it in your standard deck. Next up, we have Colossal Dreadmaw. This is a card that's been printed 4 times in under a year, so you know, this card is not bad though in draft and sealed. It's 6-mana 6/6 with trample. It was something that you definitely want to get into if you're in green. But you know, I just wish they had used another card, literally anything else. Literally any, they could have just named it like Colossal Dinosaur and then had a different art, and I would have been like, oh, it's a different card, you know. They just reprinted the same card 4 times in a row, so whatever. This is the 3rd time in standard though, so you know, we've seen this in Ixalan, Rivals of Ixalan, and now in the core set. So it skipped a set, but that's I guess it's just gonna be a mainstay from now on forever and ever. Good card as well though, and just a good pick for you in draft and sealed. Next up here we have a Centaur Courser, a 3-mana 3/3, so not bad, not great, but you know, it's just a card you might want to pick into if you need one more creature slot in your green creature deck in draft and sealed. Next up here for us, we have Bristling Boar, a 4-mana 4/3. It can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. This is kind of a good card for you as a common in draft and sealed, so I think this card is decent. 3 toughness though does mean that it might die more quickly than you want it to, but 4 power means it probably will trade with whatever it's being blocked by. Next up for us, we have Marauder's Axe. This is a 2-mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and equipped for 2. Decent card for us. Not like a short sword. It's not 1 for 1. I would love that card being back in the draft pool. I think that card's always really good whenever you kind of see something like that. But I think Marauder's Axe is just perfectly fine. It does cost 4 mana to do it, to, you know, put it on the battlefield and equip it to something on the turn it's played. So it's not terrible, it's not great, but it is an equipment, so it might see some play thanks to that 1 mana 1/2 flyer in white. And I think that is everything, guys. Yeah, that's everything so far. So there might be some more coming out today, or tomorrow rather. So I'll definitely try and cover them as much as I possibly can. But for now, that's everything we know so far. And yeah, Core Set 2019 is looking okay. It's looking like a lot of reprints of stuff that we've already seen in Standard, really. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It kind of feels like it's, you know, the Core Set kind of felt rushed to me. But, you know, we'll see what happens going forward for sure. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like the set? Do you hate the set? Are you excited to draft a core set again? Are you excited to see these cards kind of being printed in the core set to know that those slots will not be taken up in like future sets? I think that's probably the case for me. I think that like seeing Lightning Strike and seeing Shock in a core set is a lot better than seeing those cards in a like full on set like the Ravnica blocks coming down in the fall. I think that's probably a good sign for us that those sets will be a little bit more like cohesive and a little bit more centered towards newer cards moving forward. But let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.